I 36 male have been with my wife 35 female for 15 years. I'm sorry in advance for the wall of rambling text, and I'm not even sure where to post this, much less how to start this or what I'm really expecting here. TLDR at the end. I know what you might be first thinking. Our high school sweethearts. We meet right after high school, being introduced by my best friend under an awkward situation. They were hooking up after meeting at a club during her exploring phase, but after meeting me she told him she was more interested in me. I had no idea at the time why at the time, showing no interest in her and barely acknowledged her existence when hanging around my friend. After talking to my friend, he told me to just cash in the V card and she will move on. She is just having fun and moving on, nothing serious anyways. I'm not particularly comfortable with that, and at the time having no real dating experience, even just asking or rejections. I'm just hoping she gets the hint and moves on. She ends up dragging me out to the club. I hate clubs on a date, including one of her friends. I give the minimal effort of binging in the club, finding reasons to get away, leaving the girls alone to dance. Half the night I'm out smoking or in line for drinks, in the bathroom act. Long story short, it didn't work. We started dating and we are the true definition of opposites attract. She is the loud, open, bubbly butterfly extrovert who talks to everyone. I'm the quiet introvert who dreads social interaction with almost everyone. We have virtually no hobbies in common. Closest thing is she likes to read and is a Harry Potter fan. I like Lord of the Rings and video games. We made an odd couple. Looking back, I don't understand why she liked me other than I complimented her personally because I didn't talk much in social gatherings. So she had the spotlight as the couple. The reason I was happy was the one thing we had in common was a very high libido. She has a need to be constantly reassured of my love for her verbally. Due to me hating to speak to people, she would occasionally cause fights and threaten to leave me just to get me to apologize and tell her I love her act. I know this should have been a red flag. She does this enough it has lost its shock factor to me, and I just appease her and saying what she wants to hear to get past the fights, even though she is withholding affection towards me while complaining I don't show my love for her. At about 5 years into the relationship, we have moved out of state for my job and fighting quite often. We are working different shifts. I'm doing 50-60 hours in the office, and she is working at 24/7 dinner doing late shifts. We hardly see each other and can feel tension in the air all the time. At this point, she has taken the idea that a baby will fix everything and is dead set on it. Within a month or two, she got what she wanted. Within a few weeks of finding out she is pregnant, she said she is going out with her friends. Noting unusual, just the group tends to go out to the bar on weekends as a group, and it was a weekday. While she is out, her friend, part of the mentioned group, calls me asking where she is because she is not answering her phone. I call and get sent to voicemail after a few rings. I get a text message with something along the lines, "Can't talk, it's too loud at the bar with friends," mentioned the one looking for her by name. The next day I'm asking her about her night out. She tells me in elaborate detail about how much fun they had even though she couldn't drink. Things her and friend talked about act. Things got awkward when I asked her why the friend called me asking where she was and didn't know she was going out. I bluffed and told her I already knew what she was up to, and she just left. I got no response from her, but she showed up after her shift the next day like nothing happened. We fought and she admitted to having an affair. She admitted that she was with AP each time. I was crushed, had no one to really talk to about it. She blamed me for not being around and treated me like trash, but basically said, "I'm pregnant with your kid, just get over it." She wanted to be home so she could be with her family and told me I either quit my job and move her back or never see your child. I was young and dumb at the time. The possibility it wasn't even mine didn't cross my mind at the time. I quit my job in a career I just got my foot in the door in. We moved back home. I got the first job with decent pay I could find since we would need the money. We bickered during the pregnancy a lot, but we lived with her parents, so it never got out of hand. I felt trapped. Every dime I made went to savings and baby stuff. I felt like she had this power over me with the kid. I had to do what she wanted, or she would leave and not let me see the kid. She even went as far as forcing contact with my dad, who I have not talked to for 10 years at this time, just so he could get to know his grandson. When our kid was about 8 months old, my wife was working as a server and started talking about a new coworker a lot. I talked to our roommate about it, and it was making me uncomfortable when I found out they were hanging out while I was at work. She assured me that it was fine, and nothing was going on. At the beginning of the following month, the day I paid the rent, I was hanging out with my best friend. I get a call from the wife wanting to know where I was right at that moment. We were at his shop, and about 15 minutes later she comes rolling up with her roommate. She packed all my cloths in bags and started tossing them out in the parking lot. Just my cloths, none of my personal belongings. I was blindsided, to say the least. I had no other option but ask my dad to let me move in. Things got ugly after a few months of her refusing to let me see my kid. Her retaliation was attacking me at my work after cops got involved. She agreed to let me see him for dropping the charges. After that there was a few weeks of peace. Then she started let me see him for longer and longer. My stepmom was insisting I get a DNA test after I finally told them about both affairs. After we got the results, she hired a lawyer. I guess getting served snapped my wife out of the affair fog and suddenly she wanted to get back together. It was weird, felt really forced by my stepmom, who is a control freak. Main reason I broke off communication with my dad, and I didn't trust her at all. I'm only thinking about my kid. I don't want to miss time with him, and I don't want some other dude raising my son. I take her back and immediately the gaslighting starts. She tells me all the things I did wrong. Now I'll admit there was some truth in it, but it was mainly just to blow over the fact she has had 2 different affairs and just tossed me to the curb. The gaslighting never really stopped. It had become a part of our relationship. Anytime I brought something up to her, counter was I'm a piece of garbage for X, or I don't do enough of Y, I feel insecure and want to see you're not still talking to AP. Her response, you're a piece of shit because you didn't do the dishes act. Spoiler, she was still talking to AP for 6 months. Our sex life was nearly dead after getting back together. We had gone from multiple times daily to 1 minute 3 times a month. She hardly talks to me anymore and only interacts with our roommate. I feel like nothing more than an inconvenience and a paycheck. At this point, I'm on my 8th year of this relationship. My son is about 2 and I'm on my 3rd self-deletion attempt from my depression. Something just clicked when I removed the gun from my mouth. I just had my first malfunction in my gun after hundreds if not thousands of rounds of target practice with it. I checked the cartridge. It had a strike on the primer. It should have went off. I later confirmed at the range. The round worked the second time. I 100% should be dead right now. I'm not the religious type, but I got the hint and have stopped trying, and I know I need to stick around for my son. Our relationship never really got into a good place after getting back together. She would tell me something that I was doing wrong. I would work on fixing my issues but also point out something she could change. And she would lash out, tell me everything I have done was a failure. Not good enough, and she doesn't even know why she stays with me. I started to wonder what life would be like if we split. Would I be able to even find someone as a single mid-22s dad? I have the perfect introvert's job. I rarely have interpersonal interactions, only email and rare phone calls. I don't work directly with anyone. I can go days if not weeks without actually needing to speak to anyone. I go home, do chores around the house, depending on if my wife is ignoring me or fighting with me. I'll play video games. I started to wonder if staying with her for my kid was worth it. Is there even grass on the other side of the fence? Or will I just be miserable alone instead of miserable where I'm at? Looking back, this is probably the dumbest thing I had done and should have just ended it. But I didn't. I got on a dating app in my mind to see what could be out there for me. I didn't have anything happen, but I was hoping to have someone to talk to. Someone to listen to me and care about what I had to say. I never did connect with anyone, but I wanted to emotionally cheat on my wife. And I should have left her, but I didn't. What I did do is find out my wife has been snooping through my phone whenever she got the chance to. She had my phone when I got my first response on the app. Understandably, this caused a huge multi-week-long fight. I wanted her to break up with me because for whatever reason I just couldn't look at her and tell her I am done. She would berate me for hours how horrible of a thing I done. She would even downplay her most recent affair with AP2. AP1 was now irrelevant, and what I had done to her was so much worse. She decided to stay with me even though I told her I wasn't happy and couldn't keep doing this. She said just had to earn her trust back and everything would be fine. During our reconciliation phase, she tells me she wants another baby. I really don't agree with it and think this is the last thing we need to do right now. Turns out she already stopped taking her birth control a while ago. Went a week of trying to warm me up to the idea because she was already pregnant. We end up getting married in 2015 shortly after my daughter is born. From the outside, it's the picture-perfect family. We had 2 kids, new house, nice cars. Time goes on, I focused on being a good father, raising 2 amazing kids. The wife and I have our typical ups and downs in our relationship, but nothing major. The day-to-day becomes routine and little changes. Now I'm looking back thinking on the last 15 years and I do see things are very different and have changed slowly. My wife is not the same happy, bubbly person I met all those years ago. She no longer appreciates my affection, complains when hug or kiss her. She constantly rejects my advances. She seems to have no drive. I just stopped trying once and it took her 10 months to notice. She complains we never do anything but shoots any ideas down and would rather just sit playing on the phone and watching the same TV shows. My kids even complain they have seen an episode multiple times. I'm not even allowed to go to bed at the same time. She will go to the bedroom for 1 minute 2 hours to have alone time and I get scolded for going to bed before she is asleep. I spent most of my free time with my kids or doing chores. I still play video games, but I try to limit it to when my kids are doing their own thing or asleep and the wife is on her phone. I have all but given up trying to do things with her because her idea of quality time is watching Bones for the 23rd time while playing games on her phone and ignoring me and getting aggravated when I try to interact with her. I sit here typing this up trying to think about what I want from this. Where am I going? I recall the last argument we had, and she tried to get an emotional response out of me by threatening a divorce again. It dawned on me, I have become completely indifferent to her. Hell, I'm only alive because of my kids and I can't stand the thought of being away from them. If they were taken out of the equation, I'd never have stayed with her. If I stay with her, won't have any motivation to hang around once they are out of the house.